Hi, I'm Mary Kinlock. I'm going to try to do this video by myself, so that's why you're not going to see my face this time. Anyway, I'm going to start out with some real fine bead wire. I don't know what gauge it is since the thing has come off. I believe it's probably about 34 gauge, so it's pretty thin. But if you know how this stuff is, it is not easy to work with. So, what I do, and I learned this from a jewelry maker, is put clamps on both ends of a piece of the wire and pull until you see it stretch. And then when you see that little bit of a stretch, you take your clamps off, and now you have a straight piece of wire. I don't know if you can see it, but the wire is nice and straight now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the ends off here, and I'm going to fold it in half about 1 inch to 2 inches. Doesn't really matter because you can trim it when it's finished. Okay, and now I'm going to put a clamp on one end, cut this other piece off so that we have two pieces that are fairly equal. And now I'm going to put my other clamp on just before you get to the bottom. I'm going to leave those two little places of wire, pieces of wire rather, so that they will be where we attach the flower. The fuchsia grow in pairs. The flowers do. Okay, so I'm twisting this wire and take my clamp off, and there I have two places for my flowers. But first we need to paint this, and I'm going to paint it with a mixture of white glue and leaf green acrylic paint. So take a toothpick and mix them together. Okay, then I'm going to take a paintbrush and I'm going to paint the entire wire. Keep in mind that you're still going to be able to trim this when it's done. So if the wire is too long, you'll always be able to trim it off. Okay, so now I'm painting my stem here for my fuchsia green. Okay, now I'm going to hang it over the edge of the table here to dry, and hopefully I have one that's dried. Yes, I do. And so the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to build this flower backwards. The next thing is the trumpet in the back of the flower. Normally I use gel medium on the and I do that on the 1/12 scale, but on this I found this is going to be helpful, is using the glue. Okay, again I'm going to mix the white paint with the glue, and you could even use the toothpick for this, but just on the very end. Now I'm going to thicken it up because I want that trumpet to be a little bit fatter. Okay, so this is the back of the flower. Now the next thing that I'm going to do, I painted these laser sheets and on my previous videos I've showed you how to do that. For this one I've cut them apart so that I could paint two different colors. So I have one that's pink and one that's white. Now the white one that's a petal that looks like a cross is the next petal. It's the back petals of the flower. So I'm going to take those two petals and I'm going to pick one up, dip it into a little bit of glue. Now there's glue already on here, so it will help them to stick. Okay, then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that one. And there's the next part of your flower. Okay, then I'm going to take these that are like three little teeny hearts that are connected together, press on them, now you'll need two of them for each flower, and the laser guide gets these kind of close together, so sometimes they're stubborn to get out. Anyway, you can use an X-Acto knife or your tweezers, whatever works for you best. Now, I'm going to pick up one of these tiny, tiny little pink petals. I'm going to dip it in just a touch of glue and lay it right in the center. If you get glue on your tweezers, it's very aggravating. The little petals don't want to let go. Okay, then I'm going to take the next one and I'm going to set it right in the center of that flower. Then I'm going to repeat it for the other flower. Okay. Of course, it always makes me nervous when I'm doing a video and things don't like to cooperate. Sometimes if a petal doesn't want to cooperate, I just throw it down and start with another one. Anyway, this one is just determined it's not going to cooperate. That's what happens when you get glue on your tweezers. Things tend to not cooperate. Okay, I'm going to leave this one alone just to finish the video. Otherwise, I would probably cut it off and start from scratch. Okay, now one of the next things I'm going to do after I get the flower made is I'm going to put the tiny little bead of green around the back of the flower, and you can either use the glue or not, but you just want to kind of touch it. I love that detail, to get that little tiny bead around the back of the flower. Now at this point you could clamp it and let it dry, which I think would be a good idea, but I'm going to keep going with the leaves. The sheet of leaves, there are some that are double and some that are just little single leaves. These are very tiny. Okay, so you're going to use your stylus, and if like these are not working too good, I am going to probably use my tweezers or an X-Acto knife, any way to get these pieces out. Okay, when some of the paper is left behind, you can always, with your really fine tweezers, break it off. Now, the next thing too is get some of these tiny, tiny little leaves out. It's good to have ball styluses in a lot of different sizes. There are like 3 or 4 different sizes. Now, normally I wouldn't have this on a green background because it's harder to see. Try to use the foam in a color that will contrast so it's easier to see. Now, a fuchsia plant has leaves going in all directions. So, like I always say, freshen up your glue and you can start with one of the double leaves. Now what I do is I kind of try to give them a little shape by giving them a little bit of a twist. Dip it in glue and I place them upright. Now I take one of my little tiny leaves, dip it in glue, trying to not get the glue on my tweezers so that it'll let go, and that one did. Surprise, surprise, cooperating on camera. Okay, then I'm going to do it again. And to make these a little random, sometimes what I do is take the double leaf and break it in half. Okay, by breaking it in half, now you have a little bit of a larger leaf, but it's a single leaf. So add it either to the back, the sides, just randomly all over. And just put leaves, leaves, leaves. Everywhere, leaves. Now, you want to make your stems about the length like this so that they will hang over the edge of the pot. Now this pot is one of Braxton Payne's terracotta pots that's good for quarter scale. What I did was I put Sculpey in the pot. I always use model railroad material for dirt, and I used a real fine dirt. Then I dip the end of the flower petal. Say I've now cut it the length that I want it, and I've dipped the end in white glue and pushed it in before the glue dries. If you let the glue dry, you're going to have to poke it with a pen to get your pieces in. So I try to get them all done while the glue's still wet. And I think that's about it. I haven't found anything that would be tiny enough for this one for stamens. I use a real fine wire with the half scale, but I'm not sure how it would look with this one. I may give it a try, but it may look a little out of scale. Okay, that is the end of making a quarter scale fuchsia. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.